Role-playing game players come in all stripes and colors, but the one thing they all have in common is that they love to talk about their characters. So I decided to create a podcast where players are invited to talk about the one thing they love to talk about most. And I call it, Tell Me About Your Character. This episode, Raymond Terry is going to tell us about his Planescape character, who not only went to hell, he did much worse.
Hey, how's it going?
Afternoon. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time here.
No problem.
Why don't you start off? Let me know a little bit about, how long you've been gaming, what got you into it?
I've been gaming for, good Lord, about not that long, since the mid-'80s, maybe. So what got me into it was I walked into a hobby store here in North Carolina in Durham, Hungate's hobby store, and they had a selection of role-playing games. So I looked and I saw the Classic Traveler, and I picked that up, got interested in it after I read through it, and I knew someone at work that we talked about comics, so that's one of our interests was comics. And he talked about that he also gamed. And so we got together, and that's what got me started in the gaming.
You played a lot of systems? Do you have a few particular favorites that you go back to, or?
Not a lot. I've played, mostly I played 2nd edition. I played in 3rd edition, 4th, 3.5. I played Earth Dawn. My favorite was DC Heroes 3rd edition. By Mayfair Games. Played that a lot. Big into the superhero genre because I've always been a comic book nerd since the early 70s.
All right, well, the point of this podcast is talk about favorite characters. So do you have a favorite character you played?
Actually, I do. I've got a couple, but the one that stands out the most, when my friend was running Planescape, we made up different characters. I was playing a Drow that was a part of the Doomguard faction. So one of the adventures we were running through the Modron March, and we had a side quest that we went on where we had to go to hell. Yeah. And 3rd edition was kind of wacky with Planescape, but it was fun. It was one of the best things I've ever played. We had to go past the gates of hell, but to go past the gates of hell, we had to give something to Cerberus, who guards the gates of hell. What he told us, we had to give up something that was near and dear to us. And so I had just acquired a chakram from my character, just like Xena has.
Yeah.
I had gone through a whole quest to get the metal, the mithril, and everything to get it forged. And so now I had to give this up because it was the most precious thing to me. So the thing about the Doomguard is we love destruction and decay. So instead of actually giving it to him, I broke it in front of him just to see if I could piss him off. Just
Hell, I'd do that just to get at the GM.
Yeah, well, my buddy Brian ran with it. He said, Cerberus still took it. We ended up going into hell to retrieve something from Lucifer that one of the other factals had given him to hold, but he wanted us to retrieve it. So we ended up doing that and getting back into trying to stop the Modron March, which I don't know how familiar you are with Planescape.
Not very.
Planescape, you have the infinite planes. There are these creatures called Modrons, basically intelligent machines almost. And every century they do this march where they all march from one elemental plane to the other elemental plane, crossing through different planes of existence. And so, a lot of people watch, they go to whatever plane they go through, they stand there and watch the Doomguard. Their whole thing with decay and destruction is trying to stop the Modron March. So my faction is all about trying to stop them. So that's part of the adventure we went on, was trying to hamper the Modron March. You never can hamper the Modron March because it's going to continue on. The Modrons just keep walking. You might knock down one or two, but there's too many of them. I mean, it's like, this is something they do. It's something within their psyche that they have to go on this march every 100 years.
And the Doomguard have to stop him. What was your Drow character's name?
Killian Darkweaver.
That's a very Drow name.
Yes.
Was there an inspiration for Killian's creation, or was this one of those characters that you just kind of started off with generic Drow and he kind of grew over time?
No, what brought him on was we had been watching a lot of X-Files. We had been playing also a lot of, what did we play? Oh, World of Darkness. We were playing a lot of tabletop World of Darkness. And so I'd gotten into playing a lot of the stealthy type characters, the Toreador Thief or the Bruja Thief, even though Bruja are not known for being quiet. So Killian came out of that when my buddy got Planescape. He said, well, what type of character do you want to play? So I said, well, I've never played a thief. I've always played a healer, and I've played a fighter and a cleric, but I've never played a thief. So let me try a thief. And so we had just gotten through ending the campaign with our World of Darkness campaign. So I said, well, let me see if I can make my Bruja into a Drow, because I always loved playing Drow. Anyway, when I played 2nd edition, I always played a Drow. So Killian came out of that.
Okay. When you went into Hell, was this like a full party thing? Was it just a couple people, or?
No, it was a full party. It was 5 of us. There was no way we could have made it out if it wasn't more than 5 people. I can tell you that. He didn't make it easy for us when we got ready to leave. I can tell you that much, because from what I remember, because it was a while ago, there were some consequences that we had to deal with when we actually did piss off Lucifer, unfortunately. But it wasn't my doing this time. It wasn't my doing. It was one of our other party members. So we had to we had to make a hasty retreat before the rest of Lucifer's minions decided to come upon us. That was a real fun adventure, and we did make it out. So now without some damage, but we made it out. That we never really resolved that. So at some point, if we ever go back to those characters, I'm sure Lucifer will have something waiting for us at some point if we go back into Hell.
So Killian's still out there somewhere. He hasn't expired.
No, he hasn't expired yet. We kind of petered off, so we never really resolved those characters. So that he's still out there somewhere with the Doomguard. Maybe he left the Doomguard. I don't know, but he's probably still out there with the Doomguard right now.
Any other stories about Killian that stand out?
Yeah, actually, there was a couple. My buddy Brian was good about doing a couple of little solo things if we wanted to run something solo. So I wanted to practice more of my thieving skills. So he paired me up with a halfling that worked for another faction. So we went to burgle this ring from one of the other factions, and to get into the faction headquarters is like breaking into Fort Knox. So needless to say, we had a couple of hoops we had to jump through. We had to crawl through the sewers, for one thing, which wasn't fun. I think there were a couple of sewer rats and various other creatures that were down there, and we ended up having to fight our way through a couple of not too happy guards that were standing guard outside of the entrance to the sewer. They hated being on guard duty because, there was this guarding the sewer. So we decided to pop up out of there, and I think we had to, God, it's been so long ago. We had to go through a couple of puzzles to get into the vault. That's where the ring was that we were trying to steal. And then we ended up, after actually solving these puzzles, one of them was, he decided to come up with an idea like Dance Dance Revolution, where we had to, well, we had to basically dance our way past this puzzle. They had tiles. They weren't colored tiles or anything like that, but they had runes on the floor. So we had to dance and step on the correct runes to get past this trigger, or we would end up falling into this pit of spikes if we didn't do it right. The floor would fall out from under.
I have to ask.
Yeah.
How did your game master play this out? Was it like a Simon kind of thing, or?
No, he actually had background music, so he used to play. he actually had music that he bought CDs that he played music in the background while we made our rolls to try to do this, and we had to describe our moves that we were doing. What were we doing? Were we doing a pirouette, or were we doing a So we had to describe our moves, and we had to roll. And based on our roll and the description, it was if we actually hit the right tile or not.
I think you should have led with that. I think Dance Dance Drow Revolution is it was definitely one of the stranger stories I've heard so far. It says
that was fun.
All right, Ray. So you got anything to plug? What are you working on? Can anybody find you on social media or anything?
Well, yeah, I'm on Google Plus. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter at Old Gamers Studio. That's my freelance company that I started up myself, where I try to do some freelance writing and game design and stuff like that. What I'm working on right now, I'm actually working on this game with Andy Katowski and Matthew Sanchez with Kodadama Heavy Industries. It's called Shinobigami. It's a Japanese ninja RPG that they're translating from Japanese into English, and so I'm writing a couple of scenarios for them.
Awesome. Well, Ray, I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your story here.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Ray.
Take care, Steve.
All right, have a good night.
This has been Tell Me About Your Character. Listeners are free to distribute this recording as long as credit is given to tellmeaboutyourcharacter.com and as long as interviews remain unmodified. Our theme song is Remix Safety Guide by Rokobako and Love Shadow. You can find more information, including links to the original recording, at tellmeaboutyourcharacter.com.